Say there, Vault Dweller, do I have a story for you today? It's not just any story, oh no, it's a marvelous tale that'll whisk you...
No, I'm not doing this. You know what, let's just skip this intro and let's get right into it. Let's talk about Fallout. Development for this game starts with one person, Timothy Kane. Kane's career at Interplay, a video game development and publisher company, began in 1991 as a freelance programmer, where he worked on the Bard's Tale construction set, a fantasy role-playing editor based around the Bard's Tale series. After development finished in 1991, Tim was hired on full-time, and the next project he worked on was Rags to Riches, the financial market simulation. Nah, I'm cool on whatever this is, I'm good. Sometime in 1994, Interplay announced that they were looking for a tabletop RPG to license. Tim immediately suggested GURPS. Short for Generic Universal Role-Playing System, GURPS is a tabletop role-playing game system created by Steve Jackson Games that lets players create characters and embark on glorious adventures. It's known for its flexibility, allowing players to customize their characters using a wide range of skills, attributes, and abilities without forcing you to choose a specific class. One thing that sets it apart from Dungeons & Dragons is that GURPS can be adapted to different genres, from fantasy and science fiction to historical and modern settings. And the cool thing was, Tim had already built a few programs like a star map editor and a character creator around these rules because he and a bunch of the staff at Interplay were already running multiple pen and paper GURPS campaigns after hours. So they invited Steve Jackson to the studio to sell him on the idea, which he was all for, once that upfront money came through. So Tim was given the go-ahead to create a game around GURPS, but was given no resources, no budget, no deadline, no staff, no paper, no pencils. Like, damn, give him something. So for the first 6 months, Tim worked alone building an isometric 2D sprite engine. He wanted to open development and get others involved, but was told by the higher-ups that everyone is busy. That's fucked up. In order to address this roadblock, Tim devised a creative solution. He would order pizza, set up shop in a conference room, and email staff members at Interplay to join in and talk about the game if they were interested. All of this happening after office hours to avoid being accused of distracting other employees. Now, there were only a handful of these meetings and only a handful of people showed up, but this marked a turning point for the game's development, as those who did show up were truly interested in wanting to make a new game. As they began to outline the game's setting, the team deliberated on various possibilities. Right out the gate, no one wanted to do a fantasy game. The market was already saturated with fantasy games, not to mention Interplay's catalog, and they wanted to do something that would stand out. But what would that be exactly? Scott Campbell, who would eventually become the lead designer, suggested a story that involved a cultist group that kidnapped your love interest and accidentally sends your character back in time, where you, in a strange turn of events, end up killing the original ancestor of all mankind. So when you return to the present, you find yourself in a dystopian cyberpunk setting where dinosaurs rule the land.
What?
This one was a bit complex, so they reeled it back a little bit to a future Earth that had been ravaged by invading aliens. But they didn't really like the invasion theme, but they did like the destroyed Earth, so they scrapped the aliens and kept the post-apocalyptic setting. In fall of 1994, Tim officially got members assigned to his team, which meant he wasn't alone anymore, but it was only 2 people. Programmer Jason Taylor and artist Jason Anderson, these 3 worked up a prototype on Tim's engine. It's a little simple, but it was a start. As these after-hour pizza sessions continued, the team brainstormed various concepts, including ghouls, mutants, and potential locations like Junktown. But they still didn't have a story or how the game would even start. So Tim created this overarching narrative of a world teetering on the brink of nuclear apocalypse. He introduced the concept of subterranean fallout shelters, known as vaults, constructed to safeguard their occupants in the event of a global conflict. One pivotal aspect of the story was the notion of the main character growing up entirely within the confines of the vault, shielded from the harsh realities of the post-apocalyptic world outside. So when it's time to venture outside the vault, the protagonist and the player get to experience this unfamiliar world together. Leonard Boyarsky, who would later take on the role of the game's art director, put forth the idea of the game having a 1950s aesthetic. This allowed the team to embrace the visual and cultural motifs of that era. The atomic age, McCarthyism, the space race, poodle skirts. Not only that, but the world's technological advancements followed the path of what the 1950s thought the future would look like, so we get laser pistols and plasma rifles, and robots, but not like Terminator robots, like Robbie the Robot. And instead of radiation, melting you from the inside out, it turns ordinary creatures into irradiated monsters. I mean, come on, this shit is just so fucking good. I mean, it just makes sense. Tone played a vital role as well. This world is bleak and unforgiving, teeming with unsavory characters, and Mark Morgan's ambient music further accentuates these grim aspects. I mean, listen to this. This is some foreboding ass music, man. I'm just standing in town. There's nothing going on. Luckily, the game's absurd black comedy adds levity to this otherwise dismal setting. I mean, it's not like there wasn't anything to pull from. I mean, look at the US government's almost jovial approach to educating the public about safety in the event of a nuclear attack, completely downplaying the grim realities of the aftermath of this type of catastrophe, as if duck and cover is going to save you from a nuclear blast.
He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
Now, a few big things happened around this time too. Interplay considered the possibility of turning this game into a sequel for Wasteland, a game Interplay developed for EA in 1988. Both games shared the backdrop of a post-apocalyptic America ravaged by nuclear war, but beyond that similarity, they differed significantly. However, EA was unwilling to relinquish the rights, go figure, resulting in the plan falling through, which didn't really concern the team. While they would have welcomed the opportunity to create a Wasteland sequel, they were more enthusiastic about what they were working on already. Also in late 1994, and this was a big one, Interplay acquired the Dungeons & Dragons license, prompting deliberations about canceling the game. Executives perceived it as a lower priority project that might detract resources from more prominent ventures and potentially cannibalize revenue from future D&D IPs. Tim intervened by appealing to Brian Fargo, one of the founders of Interplay, earnestly advocating for the completion of the game. His impassioned begging swayed Brian Fargo, ensuring the game's preservation. For now. And things started to look up because in spring of '95 the project became official, like official, with Interplay finally giving 10 more members to fill out Team GURPS. Well, except not too long after that, Tim and Jesse Reynolds were pulled onto Stonekeep to help finish it up. Stonekeep was a game that was only supposed to be in development for like 9 months, but due to constant technological advancements and feature creep, it ended up taking like 5 years to finish, and most of the staff at Interplay had worked on the game at some point or another, but that's a story for another video. They weren't there long before returning to work on Vault 13, which was the name of the project at that time. But when Tim realized that if the game was to get a sequel, that name might not work. Like, what would they call it? Vault 14? Vault 13 Part 2? So after a brainstorming session and a suggestion from Brian Fargo, Fallout was the name they chose. As the development progressed, the team expanded to around 30 people, and while things progressed, the journey was not without its challenges. One of the biggest of these came late in development when Tim sent Steve Jackson Games the opening cinematic to the game. You know, that unforgettable opening of the 2 soldiers clad in power armor executing a man in the middle of the street, then happily waving to the camera as it slowly pulls back to reveal the desolate ruins of a bombed out cityscape set to I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. Psych! They actually couldn't get the rights to I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, so they settled for Maybe instead. And the TV screen flickers off, leaving the melody to echo throughout the destroyed city.
Maybe.
My God, this shit is haunting. Well, Steve Jackson Games saw this and they hated it. They also hated the Vault Boy too, for some reason. I don't know why they did that, but this resulted in Steve Jackson Games taking away the GURPS license. And it's like, what the fuck, man? The entire game was built around this system and they were months away from the game shipping. What the fuck were they supposed to do? 2 days after this news, Chris Taylor, who replaced Scott Campbell as lead designer, showed Tim a homebrew he created that already had skills, traits, and attributes that were needed to replace the past the GURPS system created. And removing the GURPS system was fairly easy, as it was simply a module that the game called upon when it was needed. So they took out the GURPS module and implemented this new module dubbed A-Slips, the name coming from the first letter of each attribute: agility, charisma, endurance, luck, intelligence, perception, and strength. They presented A-Slips to the team and they really liked it, but Jason Swin, who was a production assistant for the game, saw the name and was like,
Nigga, no.
Why don't we call it Special? Which Tim was against at first, but he eventually came around, and it's like, yeah man, of course you did, because special, like, it's special. What the fuck is an A-Slips? Finally, on October 10th, 1997, Fallout shipped to universal acclaim, with critics calling it one of the best RPGs on PC. But unfortunately, the game fell short of sales expectations. Most of the blame for that can be attributed to Interplay's lack of marketing efforts, as the game received minimal promotion. But even with all that against it, it still developed a devoted following, and clearly did well enough to warrant a sequel, and like 50 more sequels after that, and a TV show, so you know, did something right. Now, as soon as you start up a new game, first thing you gotta do is make a character. You can choose between 3 pre-made characters, but come on, it's more fun if you make your own. Let's break the screen down a little bit. First, we've got our special attributes. These stats will dictate what kind of playstyle you want to choose by directly boosting your skills, derived stats, and what perks you'll have access to. For instance, if you increase your strength, your HP, carry weight, as well as your unarmed and melee skills will increase. Each stat starts at 5 and you're given 5 extra points to place wherever you want. You can remove points from other stats to allocate elsewhere to create your own special character. Choose wisely because this is permanent. There are a few ways to temporarily boost your special stats, such as partaking in certain pharmaceuticals, as well as more permanent options later down the road, but just be careful with your decision or you'll fuck around and not even have enough intelligence to have a normal conversation. But hey, at least you still have that option and it's, still a fun way to play. Next, we have skills. These are the abilities your character will have access to, like lockpicking, first aid, science, and what weapons you'll be proficient with. As you level, you'll receive a certain amount of points you can use on whichever skill you want, each point raising their percentage. Here we can tag 3 skills, so when you place points into them, they'll go up by 2, developing a little bit faster. Now there's a lot more flexibility here. Just because you don't tag a skill doesn't mean it's a waste to invest in it. There's also optional traits. These are a little different because they have a positive and a negative effect. Like Finesse, it increases your critical hit chance but reduces your overall damage. And Gifted will give you 1 point in each special trait but removes 10% from each skill and you receive 5 less skill points as you level. But even with all of its negative effects, Gifted is still busted as hell, so hey, take that shit. After every 3rd level, you gain access to perks, which are bonuses that are dictated by your special stats and what percentage your skills are. Like Slayer, it's a very powerful late game perk that's only available if you have an 8 in both strength and agility, and unarmed at 80%. So you got some options to create any character that fits your playstyle. Combat is a turn-based affair. How many actions you can take during combat, such as attacking, moving, or using items, are based on how many action points you have. Certain weapons also allow you to take a targeted shot, letting you choose a specific part of the target's body to attack. So nothing too complex going on here. Combat's pretty straightforward, but it's still fun as hell. The world of Fallout is big and there's a lot to do here. As you explore the California wasteland, you'll speak to other NPCs where you can barter for items, pick up and finish quests, and gather information towards your main goal. Traveling to different regions is handled through the world map. As you move from one location to the next, sometimes you'll encounter random events that range from raiders attacking you to finding an overturned Nuka-Cola truck full of caps, and sometimes these little fun ones like a crashed alien ship or a police box. I don't really get this one. I don't know what this is. I know this is a Doctor Who reference, please don't yell at me. There's also 4 companions in the game that you can recruit to aid you in your quest, but the system kinda sucks. You can't really give them commands, so they'll do dumb shit all the time. They'll block your path, trapping you in rooms with no way to move them. The only way you can access their inventory is if you steal from them. They're pretty useful in combat when they're not shooting you in the back. But if you ever get tired of them, you can just dismiss them. Well, except for Dog Meat. He's a dog, so you can't really have a normal conversation with him. So the only way to get rid of him is to give him the old Yeller treatment, so be aware of that. I know I'm talking a lot of shit about companions, but it's still fun to have them around, and they are still very useful. So before we dive into this story, I gotta do a little setup. And I'm gonna pretend like this is 1997 and this is the only Fallout game that exists, so it'll only be lore from this game. Kind of. In the Fallout universe, there are 2 sharply contrasting eras, pre-war and post-war. The pre-war period closely mirrors our own history with historical events and technological developments largely the same. The divergence occurs after World War II. This is where Fallout becomes Fallout. This alternate history imagines a world where the cultural aesthetics and technological optimism of the 1950s continued into the future. This retro-futuristic style combines mid-20th century design elements with futuristic technology, creating a unique setting where things like nuclear-powered cars and robot butlers are commonplace, and things like radio instead of TV remaining the dominant medium for both entertainment and information. Globally, things are much different as well. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 never happened. Despite this, the Soviet Union's global influence was largely overshadowed by the rising military power and technological progress of the People's Republic of China. In the 2040s, a shortage of vital resources triggered what is known as the Resource Wars, a 25-year period of global conflict. During this time, the United States invaded Mexico, the European Commonwealth launched an invasion of the Middle East, China took control of Alaska for 10 years before America could reclaim it, during which the United States also annexed Canada. This tumultuous era reached its climax on October 23, 2077.
The storm of World War had come again. In 2 brief hours, most of the planet was reduced to cinders.
Prior to this catastrophic event, Vault-Tec constructed fallout shelters across America to shield the population from this inevitable nuclear holocaust, which brings us to the current state of affairs, the post-war world. The game begins with the overseer of Vault 13 delivering some grim news. The water purification system has faltered thanks to a failing water chip, and the supply of fresh water is dwindling rapidly, with the mere 4 or 5 months remaining until total depletion.
We marked your map with the location of another vault. Not a bad place to start, I think. Look, just be safe, okay?
With the clear mission and destination, we venture into the unknown, carrying the burden of Vault 13's survival on our shoulders. But first, we've got to make it through this cave, I guess. I mean, I thought we were going to be like outside, which, I mean, I guess we are outside, but I thought we were going to be like outside. It seems we aren't the first either. Old Ed here made it like 2 steps out of the vault before he died to, what, rats? Nah, man, no,
Nigga, you's a bitch.
Nah, that's not fair. He could have been coming back from a mission and just got caught off guard or something. Or maybe he failed his mission and was never allowed back in. I don't know, I'm just speculating. I do know one thing though. Ed's dead, baby.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
I love the text that shows up when we get close to the exit. To the west, you can see a natural light. For the first time in your life, you're looking at the outside world. That's it right there. As our journey outside the vault begins and we head towards our destination, we come across a small settlement named Shady Sands, which is a welcome sight because, you know, the world ended 84 years ago. For all we know, the only people left alive are the inhabitants of Vault 13, but here's this settlement that's got clean well water, managed to grow crops, they've got Brahmin herds, which are American Brahmin cows that have mutated and developed 2 heads. And they got a doctor. So even though the world ended, and oh boy, it ended, life endured. And it's reassuring. The settlement is run by Aradesh,
Greetings. Your business in Shady Sands might be...
who was voiced by Tony Shalhoub. You might know him from Monk, or The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, or the critically acclaimed 13 Ghosts.
Goats?
He also has a daughter named Tandy.
Hi. I heard there was a traveler in town, but I was kind of skeptical until I saw you. My name's Tandy. What's yours?
Who was voiced by the illustrious Cree Summer. You would be hard-pressed to find a cartoon, video game, whatever that doesn't have Cree Summer's voice in it. Also, these talking heads were created by Scott Rodenheiser, who would sculpt these clay models that were then digitized, textured, and animated in a process that took 8 weeks. And these things are so cool and so off-putting. It hits like this perfect uncanny valley sweet spot of both being really awesome and really creepy. Look at it, look at the way that they move. Oh, it's so strange, I love it. Now, even though Shady Sands is thriving, this town is not without its problems.
Oh my, yes. Great packs of rad scorpions are killing our herds. We don't know where they're from, and no matter how many we kill, there's always more.
I'm going to be saying this a lot in this video, but whether you want to help or not is entirely up to you. You know, we got our own problems, man. Vault 13 is depending on us, and the clock is ticking. But can we really turn down others in their time of need? That choice is yours to make. Me though, I gotta do it. I can't leave them hanging, bro. I can't not help them. That shit gives me anxiety. I gotta do it. But before you go, hey, talk to Ian. Not only does he have a lot of information about other locations in the California wasteland, but he's also the first companion that you can recruit. I always take Ian with me. Love Ian. After the rad scorpions are taken care of, we'll head to Vault 15 to find that it's been abandoned for some time now and is completely overrun by the mutated wildlife. Further exploration reveals that much of the vault is inaccessible due to cave-ins, making it impossible for us to retrieve the water chip. Fucking great. We're not gonna leave empty-handed though. There's some decent loot in here, including a set of armor that is a clear homage to Road Warrior. Leaving the vault, if we return back to Shady Sands, we find out that Tandy has been kidnapped by the Khans, a raider tribe led by Garl Deathhand. When we reach the base, there's a few ways that we can rescue Tandy. We can kill everyone here, fight the leader in a one-on-one hand-to-hand brawl, intimidate him, convince Garl you're his father he murdered, returned from the dead, or just buy Tandy's freedom. Oh, that's weird. You put her in your inventory? After rescuing Tandy, it's time to move on. Ian gave us a few other locations and Junktown's the closest, so let's head there and see if we can get some more information. As the name implies, Junktown wasn't built on the ruins of a bombed city, it was built with junk. Now, this place has a different vibe than Shady Sands. Shady Sands felt like a close-knit community with everyone working together for a common good and towards their collective betterment. Junktown, not so much. Within the town, two prominent figures hold contrasting perspectives regarding the town's future. Their vision for the town's development stand in stark opposition, leaving the town's fate hanging in the balance. Sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's just regular people trying to get by, you know what I mean? They got a doctor, Doc Morbid, who will heal your wounds up, and has a side hustle where he'll sell body parts for food. Ew. There's a nice quiet bar where you can just sit down, have yourself a drink, and just relax. God damn! We can also get two more companions here. We've got Tycho, who's a nomadic desert ranger, which are the same desert rangers from New Vegas, and also a reference to desert rangers from the Wasteland series, and Good Boy Dogmeat. Here we'll also meet Killian Darkwater, the mayor of Junktown, head of the Junktown Guard, which is essentially the police force of Junktown, and he runs his own store. God damn, how many jobs he got?
My man has 3 jobs.
He's voiced by Richard Dean Anderson of SG-1 and MacGyver fame. He provides us with some additional details about what's happening both inside and outside of Junktown.
Well, Junktown's not much, but it's home. Mostly we trade with people or let them forget their troubles for a bit. Of course, we have our share of problems.
But this conversation is cut short when a man barges into the store and tries to assassinate Killian. Killian thanks us for helping him and tells us the would-be assassin was sent by Gizmo, a wealthy casino owner who's been trying to wrest control of Junktown from Killian. He knows Gizmo's behind the hit, but he has no proof and needs our help getting it. I mean, the dude did say Gizmo sends his regards in bright red letters in a room full of witnesses, but I guess he needs more. Which leads us to Gizmo.
What do you want? I'm a busy man.
Choice time. We can get the confession and help Killian, or help Gizmo and take Killian out. Now, there are a few decisions in the game that has some shades of gray, a bit of moral ambiguity, but this ain't one of them. I mean, come on, you see him. Ain't nobody who ever looked like this and sounded like this.
That's easy. I want him dead because he cramps my business.
Been a good guy. You can't just hire someone to run up in someone's place of business and try to kill them, man. That's crazy. That's some evil. Damn, that's what we just did, huh? Unfortunately, there's no water chip here, so it's time to head out. After we leave Junktown, we'll head towards the hub, a major settlement and trading center that's run by 3 trading companies. First, we've got the water merchants, who have control of the town's water supply and deal mainly with water, obviously. Next, we've got the Crimson Caravan, who will make any delivery, no matter how far, no matter how dangerous, as long as you got the caps to pay for it. That's the currency in the Fallout universe, caps. Bottle caps. You know, that's how people pay for things. And lastly, we've got the Fargo Traders led by Butch Harris, who's voiced by Ron Perlman, who's also the voice of the narrator in the game, and's also done a bunch of other things as well.
Time is money, chit-chat is not money. You hear about the job or what?
Now, Butch doesn't actually have control of the Fargo Traders. He's kind of like a figurehead. He's like Mayor McCheese. He don't really do shit. The real owner is Decker.
So, you're looking for a job. How fortunate. I have one that needs doing.
Who's voiced by Keith motherfucking David. We're talking about Captain Anderson, Spawn, Arbiter, Goliath, and now he's the voice of Zavala after the untimely passing of the late great Lance Reddick. Decker's a crime boss and the leader of the Underground, a criminal enterprise that oversees all the shady dealings in the hub. He managed to take control of Fargo from Butch and has set up shop in the Maltese Falcon. There's also the Children of the Cathedral. They're like this religious cult, something about the Holy Flame or some shit, I don't know.
Blessings of the Holy Flame to you, my child.
There's also a thieves guild called the Circle of Thieves.
What the bloody hell are you doing here?
So like, there's a lot going on in the hub, and there's a lot to do here, but one quest in particular involves caravans that have been going missing recently, with Fargo being hit the hardest. Butch tasks us with finding out why these caravans are disappearing, with the most prevalent rumor being a death claw.
You really want to hear it, huh? Well, some say it's the death claw. But I don't know nothing about that.
These giant, horn-having, massive, claw-wielding, bipedal, reptilian abominations. They lay eggs, man. They're fucking gross. And also pretty rare, with most people not even believing in their existence. But there's one person in town who's actually seen one.
Spare change, old friend, old pal? Can you help a poor mutant down on his luck?
Good old Harold. I love Harold so much. He's from a vault just like us, but he can't remember which one exactly, which, I mean, you know, cut him some slack, man. He's almost 100 years old.
All started with the sirens. I was young, but oh, I do remember that. A lot of terrible years followed. Then I remember walking out of the vault late one morning.
After he left his vault, he took up trading and did pretty damn good, but his caravans kept getting attacked by mutants. Hoping to find the origins of these mutants, Harold, along with several companions, including a man named Richard Gray, embarked on an expedition that led them to a military base in the northern region.
Richard Gray was a doctor. A little older than me, and friend was he smart. He found the source, some sort of old military base. We lost a lot of folks getting in there.
Despite heavy losses, Harold and Richard pressed on until they reached the base's central core, where they discovered vats housing an unknown substance. However, before they could investigate further, a robotic crane crashed into them, knocking Harold unconscious and propelling Richard Gray into the mysterious substance.
He never made it back here, and, well, I couldn't face the wasteland again, so I never looked.
Days later, Harold regained consciousness outside the base, his body already undergoing mutation due to the exposure to the unknown substance within the facility.
Well, I have no idea. Woke up in the wasteland, barely hanging on. Got lucky, and some traders I knew found me days later. Good thing, since I was already changing. They brought me here, and here I've been since.
That's a bleak origin story, man. He also gives us info on the Deathclaw, and speaking of Slappy, will take us to the cave where this motherfucker is, and this thing...
Your life ends in the wasteland.
...is an absolute...
Not even the carrion eaters are interested in your radiated corpse.
Nightmare.
Your bones are scraped clean by the...
Okay, I get it, I'm dead, god damn. After defeating it, we find a super mutant barely hanging on. In his confusion, he hands us a holodisc and mutters something about Master before dying. The holodisc reveals that the super mutants were the ones behind the disappearances. But why? Why were they kidnapping people? For what reason? And who's Master? Who was that?
Questions for later.
After finishing the quest, there's more we can do here, but we gotta find that chip. If we go and talk to the water merchants, they can deliver water to Vault 13, which gives us an extra 100 days. But more importantly, they tell us that there might be a water chip in Necropolis, because they tried to set up a trade route to Necropolis, but they were turned down. It seems a little flimsy, but it's all we got, so let's check it out. So, whatever image you have in your head of what a city ravaged by a nuclear apocalypse would look like, a shattered skyline, desolate streets, columns of black smoke billowing from an unknown source, yeah, that's Necropolis. The bombed out irradiated ruins of Bakersfield, now home only to ghouls. Ghouls are humans who were exposed to lethal levels of radiation, but instead of dying, they underwent ghoulification, where their flesh began to necrotize and rot away, giving them a zombie-like appearance. Some manage to maintain their humanity and intelligence, while others descend into a feral state, losing their higher cognitive functions and behaving more like mindless animals. Despite their physical deterioration, ghouls possess enhanced radiation resistance and can live for centuries. The city, or, what's left of it, is run by Set.
There'd better be a killer reason for standing in my shadow. Does next on the menu ring a bell for you, Normie?
Though he's far from an upstanding leader, he's managed to turn Necropolis into a safe haven for ghouls, but a hostile place for any outsiders who wander in. However, it seems that Set's reign might be nearing its end.
The mutants at the watershed need dirt naps. Makes my shadow grow. You slice them, and rewards run to you. Info too.
I don't know, man. He's kind of a dick, and all of this kind of sounds like a Set problem to me. But the real answers we're looking for are in the sewers. Down here, we'll find the underground ghouls and their leader, who explains that, contrary to the hostile nature of the ghouls above, these ghouls are a peaceful community that have distanced themselves from Set's aggressive approach towards non-ghouls, and seek nothing more than to coexist harmoniously with others in the wasteland. He also explains that the watershed the mutants have seized control of is where the water pump that supplies the city is located. With the mutants in charge, the ghouls were unable to maintain the pump, causing it to fail. Now the inhabitants of Necropolis are forced to rely on the vault beneath the city to supply them with water. A vault underneath the city? Where they're getting water? Hey, sounds like a working water chip down there, baby. We are in business. But the ghoul leader lets us know that taking the water chip would deprive everyone in Necropolis of water. Damn, why can't this shit be easy? It's not hard to fix the water pump, but whether you want to is up to you. Either way, we gotta get to that watershed. Here we can find the super mutant Set told us about.
Hey, you not look like Ghoul. How come?
Harry here, who was voiced by Brad Garrett of Everybody Loves Raymond fame, isn't the brightest bulb in the watershed, and it's very easy to talk your way past him, but I don't know. Since we're here, we might as well take him out, right? In the watershed, we can find the water pump, and now's your chance to either fix it or don't. Do whatever you want. Further down, there's an imprisoned ghoul we can free who will tell us in the other room there's a passageway to the vault below. Deeper down, we find ourselves in Vault 12, with its only inhabitants being glowing ones. Ghouls who have absorbed such massive amounts of radiation that they actually glow with it. Hence the name. Further in, we finally discover the item that set this entire quest in motion. A fucking water chip. As our journey draws to a close, I can't help but reflect on the challenges and triumphs we've experienced along the way. It seems like a lifetime ago that we left the safety of the vault and stepped into the harsh reality of the wasteland. All the places we've explored, from Shady Sands to Necropolis, enemies we've encountered like that fucking Deathclaw, and the cool people we've met, like Harold. That guy's fucking awesome.
God, I love that joke.
I like that laugh.
Finally making it back to Vault 13, the water chip is successfully installed.
Ha! It's working, and it looks like we have a winner!
The day is saved, our impact on the wasteland will be felt for years to come, and at last, we can finally relax.
Psych!
Upon reviewing our briefing detailing our expedition into the wasteland, the Overseer draws a worrying conclusion.
The mutant population is far greater than could be expected by natural growth or mutations. This leads me to believe, and I don't really understand it, but it looks like someone's generating new mutants, and at a startling rate. As long as someone is creating hostile mutants at this rate, the Vault's safety is at stake. Find and destroy this lab as soon as you can.
Come on, we just got back and now we're being sent right back out to find and destroy the source of what's creating these mutants? How do you even start that process? Where do we find this mysterious source? Are we just supposed to stumble around and just should the guy? Whatever. I don't even know where to start. Brotherhood. It's one of the few places we haven't been yet, so let's check there. Formed shortly after the Great War, the Brotherhood of Steel are a paramilitary organization whose main focus is the preservation and regulation of advanced pre-war technology. But before we can even ask any questions, Cabot, who is voiced by Richard Mall, who played Bull in Night Court, explains to us that,
I talked to the High Elder and he said that not just anyone can join. He said you have to complete a quest first. You have to go to the ruins of the Ancient Order, that's south of here. You've got to go inside and bring back something that proves that you were there. This place is high-tech. There's things inside like you've never seen before. Oh, it's also radioactive.
There's something really enjoyable about Maul's voice acting. It's like his delivery and his cadence, they're like perfect. I fucking love it.
You'll do it? You will? Great, just bring it back here. Good luck.
Our destination is a secluded area in the southeast called The Glow. It earned its name from the radioactive brilliance emanating from its location, a haunting beacon visible against the night sky. As we arrive, we are instantly assaulted by severe levels of radiation, as well as a massive crater torn into the landscape. Already, this place is giving off some very uneasy vibes. The eerie music combined with this black void in the middle of the ground with these jagged metal fragments protruding from it, creepy, and a little gross. Look at it. It's gross, right? It don't gross you out? Grosses me out. Descending into the mouth of Shai Hulud, we find ourselves in a mysterious facility where the uneasy vibes go from 10 to 11. After a brief search, we discover Sergeant Allen's remains, and upon examining his body, we find a holodisc and a yellow passkey. The holodisc, which chronicles Sergeant Allen's grim final days in this place-turned-tomb, provides all the evidence the Brotherhood requires for us to join. However, the yellow passkey unlocks access to the facility's deeper levels, an opportunity we shouldn't pass up. On top of all the goodies we can loot from here, no other place in this game feels quite like the Glow. Now, whatever questions we have about this place and the mysteries surrounding it can be answered by Zax, a supercomputer located on the 4th floor. Now, according to Zacks, the structure served as a research facility for Westech, a pre-war corporation dedicated to defense and biomedical research. Westech gained significant recognition for developing the power armor suits, a technology that proved instrumental in shifting the tide of the resource wars in the United States' favor. Established in 2055, the facility's main focus was to find a cure for the new plague, a virus that was sweeping across the US. However, in 2073, the military took control of the base, shifting the focus to developing countermeasures against China's increased use of biological weapons. This ambitious endeavor led to the inception of the Pan-Immunity Virion Project, more commonly known as PvP. Early experiments utilizing the Virion yielded promising results, indicating the potential development of a robust immune response against genetic damage. However, unforeseen side effects emerged. The Virion induced unexpected mutations such as a dramatic increase in muscle mass and enhanced brain activity. Upon observing these mutations, the government abandoned the PvP project and instead focused on exploring the mutagenic aspect of the virus. In the early months of 2077, the United States military established a state-of-the-art facility within their Mariposa military base, transferring all testing operations to this location. The purpose of this move was to intensify the study and surveillance of the phenomenon now designated as the forced evolutionary virus. That's the reason this place was hit so hard during the Great War. The Chinese intentionally aimed ground bursts at this location in an attempt to destroy whatever was going on beneath the surface. You know, Zacks provided us with a good chunk of information. That base up north, Mariposa, sounds an awful lot like the base Harold said the super mutants were coming from. And this forced evolutionary virus kind of sounds like what's creating all these super mutants. We own something here.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Returning to the Brotherhood and showing proof of completion, we are unceremoniously inducted into the Brotherhood of Steel as initiates.
This is great. Hang on while I open the door.
I mean, we put in a lot of work and we don't get no pat on the back, no attaboy, no nothing. But, you know, it's all good because now that we're members, we get access to all kinds of goodies. Munitions, surgeries, which allow us to bump up each special trait by 1, but it's super expensive and takes up a lot of time. So if you come here before you get the water chip, be mindful of how many days it eats up. And we have a chance to equip ourselves with the best armor in the game in the form of our very own suit of power armor. Hey man, listen, with this right here, come on now, you feel me? There's also some tension in the air here. Everyone in Lost Hills seems to be on edge. High Elder John Maxon, the grandson of Roger Maxon, who founded the Brotherhood of Steel, is gearing up for war, and he has the same mission as we do: take out the super mutants.
Well, the merchants from the hub told us a bunch of caravans disappeared on their way up north. I think there's an army in the mountains, but the elders, they don't want to act until they're sure.
Vree, who is the head scribe in charge of gathering and preserving knowledge, has a hopeful yet cautious outlook on the future if we can get rid of the mutant source.
Between the nuclear and biogenic weapons used in the war, it's surprising we don't have more mutations. However, if we can hold out, everything will be okay. All the mutants I've studied have been sterile. They can't breed with another creature. If we could clean up the mutation sources, we should be able to simply outlive the mutants.
All this sounds awesome, but we still don't know where this super mutant base is. I mean, we've got a name, Mariposa, but no one can tell us where it is. Somewhere up north, but that's all we've got. So before we start aimlessly wandering around, let's at least head to the areas that are marked on the map, particularly an area towards the south. Located within the ruins of Los Angeles, California, a collection of small settlements emerged after the Great War. This assemblage of settlements is collectively known as the Boneyard. In the settlement of Addington, John Zimmerman holds the title of mayor, but he isn't actually in charge. It's a figurehead. The actual power lies with the Regulators, a ruthless mercenary group initially hired by John for the town's protection. However, the Regulators' current focus is on avenging John's son Jason, whose death was caused by a gang known as the Blades. But come to find out the Blades weren't responsible because their leader, a woman named Razor, go figure, was in a relationship with Jason, and it was the Regulators that murdered Jason and blamed the Blades to justify their elimination. Now, we can bring the Regulators to justice by supplying the Blades with weapons and rallying the whole town behind us to take them out. Or not. Do whatever you want. There's other things to do around here too. We've got the Followers of the Apocalypse, led by the creator of the group, Nicole, who's voiced by Pamela Adlon, who voiced Spinelli in Recess and also Bobby Hill in King of the Hill.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
The Followers of the Apocalypse are probably the most normal group we meet out here.
We want to bring peace back to this wasteland. The world tends toward destruction, so we try to make a difference.
Rather than yielding to despondency, they've opted for a humanitarian approach, providing medical assistance and education to the inhabitants of the wasteland, fostering hope in the restoration of humanity, and to make sure the horrors of the past are never repeated. But this is still Fallout, and the followers aren't above getting down and dirty.
And we are concerned with the children of the cathedral. They claim to want peace like us, but anyone who disagrees with them just disappears. Their dark god is not what he seems. Believe me, call it instinct. We've seen Morpheus and the Nightkin, and they don't look like peacemakers to us. Their hospitals and message of peace make them attractive, but we know there's evil there.
I told you. I knew the children of the cathedral was on some cult shit, and I like the followers, so we're gonna help them out. But before we leave, we've got a few more people to talk to. There's another member of the followers of the apocalypse that has a very interesting story. Call him Tullius. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, Tullius volunteered for a mission to aid his community, ultimately bringing him to Necropolis, where he allied with Set to combat the growing mutant threat plaguing Necropolis. But before they could clear them out, Tullius was captured by the mutants and their lieutenant, who exposed Tullius to FEV, resulting in his altered appearance. Something about the mutant leader needing pure humans to create more mutants? Tullius' recollection on the situation is a little vague. Fortunately, members of the followers of the apocalypse discovered him and assisted in his recovery, and he's been here ever since. Also, that mission he was on? Never completed it. The whole reason he went to Necropolis was because he heard they had a system there that could produce clean water. This might be sounding a little familiar. That mission that Tullius volunteered for all those years ago was to find a water purification ship that was showing signs of failing. That's right, Tullius is from Vault 13, just like us, sent to find a water ship, just like us, ending up in Necropolis and fighting mutants with Set, just like us. We have been walking in the echoes of Tullius' footsteps this entire time, following the very route he once traversed. His experiences, his struggles, and his defeat serve as an eerie premonition of what could have been our own fate. The other person we need to talk to is Katja. She's a fist-throwing, lock-picking Addisum native and the final companion we can recruit. She also gives us the location of the cathedral, which is the base for the children of the cathedral, which isn't far from here, so you know where we're headed. This place? Yeah, okay, this place is kind of creepy. You know, it's cult shit. They're doing cult activities with cult tendencies down here. With enough poking and snooping around, we'll find the leader of the children of the cathedral.
I don't remember inviting anyone to my room, and yet I have a visitor. Why?
Morpheus. But guess what? Morpheus is just a figurehead. I mean, he runs the children of the cathedral, but they're merely a front for something far bigger hiding beneath the surface. Like literally. Beneath the cathedral lies a demonstration vault originally built by Vault Tech to showcase their vaults to the public. The vault now serves as a base of operations for something far more sinister, and it is nasty down here, housing some of the weirdest shit in this game, like floaters and centaurs. But the freakiest thing down here is the Master.
So what shall it be? Do you join the Unity, or do you die here?
Join.
Die!
Join.
Die!
Oh man, this thing is disgusting. He looks like the noise your eyes make when you rub them and they make that little squishy sound. Ew. Now the Master is voiced by two different voice actors.
Very demanding for one in your tenuous position, but I can respect your needs.
The female voice is Kath Soucie. She is a heavy hitter, no doubt. And the male voice actor is handled by Jim Cummings, another heavy hitter. And you know Jim Cummings. You know Jim Cummings even if you don't know Jim Cummings. He also voiced Gizmo and Set as well. Now, the Master has one objective in mind, one goal. That's unity, the unification of the human race.
The Unity will bring about the Master race. Master! One able to survive, or even
thrive
in the wasteland. As long as there are differences, we will tear ourselves apart fighting each other. We need one race.
Race.
One goal.
Goal.
One people to move forward to our destiny.
And the crazy thing is, we already know the Master. Well, I mean, we don't know him, but we know of him. Remember that story Harold told us back at the hub about leading an expedition to find the source of the mutants? How he and Dr. Gray discovered a base, but they got hit by a crane and Dr. Gray fell into a vat of some mysterious substance? Well, that unknown substance we've already established is the forced evolutionary virus, but this grotesque, goopy, tan mass we see in front of us, that's Dr. Gray. Let's run it back a little bit. See, when Dr. Gray first emerged from the vats, he was no worse for wear, but that was short-lived. As his body reacted to the virus, his skin began to molder and flay, accompanied by excruciating pain. As the FEV mutation took hold, Gray discovered a horrifying new talent, the ability to absorb organic material. his first victim was a rat within the facility, and upon absorbing it, he experienced the unsettling sensation of being able to feel inside the rat's mind. As the agonizing pain from the mutation subsided, Gray realized his intelligence had greatly increased. Determined to replicate his transformation, he began experimenting by immersing various wildlife from the facility into the vats. When he submerged a rat and a dog simultaneously and witnessed them fusing into a single entity, inspiration struck. Gray began to envision a future shaped by a perfect race of his own creation, a race free from the disparities that plagued humanity, a future destined to achieve unity. While the initial mutants created with these subjects were large and strong, they retained none of their former identities and their intelligence was severely reduced. This setback was traced to radiation damage. The lower the radiation exposure, the better chances of producing more successful mutants. Over the next half a century, Gray established a formidable army of super mutants. He orchestrated raids and attacked caravans to abduct humans for exposure to the FEV, thereby expanding his mutant ranks. We found evidence of this early in our journey at the hub. When we encountered that dying mutant who was attacked by a Deathclaw, he was a part of a kidnapping operation searching for potential prospects. Gray absorbed many of the failed mutants, adding their biomass to his own until he was nothing more than a grotesque pile of flesh and technology. My man saw Tetsuo and Akira and was like, yeah, that's the look I want right there. Gray's growing influence eventually compelled him to leave the Mariposa base and establish a new headquarters in the demonstration vault. From this location, he gathered crucial information about the whereabouts of other vaults and used the children of the cathedral as an additional arm of his expanding power. So that's his, motivation, plan, all that shit. The Master wants to accelerate the evolution of humanity into a single unified race capable of surviving the harsh conditions of this new world. Okay, so we got a few ways we can handle this. We can battle the Master head on. We can agree with the Master's plan and surrender ourselves and the location of Vault 13, which results in our character being dropped into a FEV vat and Vault 13 being raided by super mutants, which horrified the shit out of me when I was younger. It's like, I don't know, man, watching this scene with the fucking super mutant just fucking pushing down the hallway all bulky and goofy looking and watching them like stomp out the overseer, fucked me up, man. This shit fucked me up. Or another option here, we can point out that their plan is fucking stupid and they've overlooked one major flaw. All the super mutants that they've created are sterile. They can't procreate.
But it cannot be. This would mean that
all my work
has been for nothing. Everything that I've tried to a failure. It can't be.
Ooh, I'm building a perfect unified race, you dumbass. In a grim moment of clarity, the Master comes to realize that everything they've done and the atrocities committed in the name of progress were ultimately futile.
I don't think that I can continue.
Continue?
To have done the things I have done in the name of progress and healing. It was madness. I can see that now. Madness.
Madness?
There is no hope. Leave now. Leave while you still have
hope.
Accepting this harsh truth, the Master activates the countdown timer on the vault's self-destruct sequence, giving us a brief window to get the fuck out of here! Oh, we in the final stretch now. Taking down the Master means we've eliminated who was creating the super mutants, but there's still a matter of what's creating them. All that raw FEV is still setting up in Mariposa. And fortunately for us, the Master's records contain the location of the Mariposa base. And we know what to do, so let's go get this shit done. This place is an absolute fortress, heavily fortified and serving as the staging ground for their plans to conquer the wasteland. The mutants here are armed to the teeth with rocket launchers, plasma rifles, flamethrowers, miniguns, all that shit. And to make matters worse, most of the combat happens in these tight, cramped corridors, making this facility a complete death trap, especially for your companions. Not to mention there's these like force field doors in the base that Dogmeat will just recklessly charge through, leading to his death. And canonically, this is where Dogmeat meets his tragic end, running fucking headlong into one of these fucking force field doors and getting reduced into a pile of ash. So as heartbreaking as it is, and it is heartbreaking, try not to feel too bad when it happens. On the deepest floor of the base, we can find the lieutenant.
Oh, this is excellent. You know, I actually doubted my officers when they said they'd captured a prime normal. It is so nice to see you.
Now, the lieutenant is the absolute embodiment of what the master was trying to achieve. He's strong, he's durable, he's retained his personality and intelligence, which I'm assuming was further boosted by the FEV. He's perfect. Perfect. But I mean, he's kind of in the way, so... Oh, you're not dead? Wait, ew. What's happening? What the fuck is going on? What is happening? Here we'll also find the VAT's control room, the nerve center of this entire operation. Amidst the Master's loyalists and the glow of flickering computer screens lies the power to decide the fate of the super mutant threat. With a few calculated keystrokes, we can initiate the self-destruct sequence, triggering a chain reaction that will obliterate the facility and everyone within it. This decisive act doesn't just end the immediate danger, it ensures that their influence can never spread further. The resulting explosion will ripple across the wasteland, marking the end of an era and closing the final chapter on the super mutants' reign of terror. With the death of the Master and the complete destruction of Mariposa, we've reached the conclusion of our long and perilous journey. The threat of the super mutants have been extinguished and the wasteland has a chance to rebuild and heal. As the dust settles, Ron Perlman's voice takes over, narrating the final chapter of our story.
You managed to destroy the VATs. Then you killed the Master before he could realize his twisted plans. With the Master gone, his armies flee to the east, in fear of retribution from the remaining normals.
He walks us through the fates of the individuals, factions, and communities we've encountered along the way. Each story reflects the impact of our choices, whether we lent a helping hand, ignored their plight, or acted against them. Some thrive, others falter, and a few met grim ends. These epilogues serve as a sobering reminder of how our decisions shaped the wasteland, leaving a legacy that will echo long after our journey has ended. Either way, we can finally return home, where I'm sure we'll be welcomed with open arms and can finally put all this behind us.
There's no way the people of the Vault can ever thank you enough for what you've done. You've saved all our lives. Who knows, maybe even saved the human race. That makes the rest of this even harder.
Wait a minute.
Everyone will want to talk to you. Every youngster will look up to you and want to emulate you. And then what? They'll want to leave.
Wait, what?
What happens to the Vault if we lose the best of a generation? What if we are the only safe place in the world? You just gave us back all these lives. I can't take the chance of losing them. I've made a lot of tough decisions since I took this position, but none of them harder than this one.
Huh?
You saved us, but you'll kill us. I'm sorry. You're a hero, and you have to leave.
And so our journey ends on a bittersweet note. Despite the sacrifices we've made, the battles we've fought, and the lives we've saved to protect the Vault and its inhabitants, we are met with both gratitude and rejection, exiled from the only home we've ever known. We are no longer Vault dwellers, living under the safety of steel walls and a structured life. Now we are wastelanders, forced to embrace the chaos and uncertainty of a wasteland we once sought to escape. And that's it. If you've never played this game before, you are doing yourself a disservice. It's an amazing experience, and there's so much more to do in this game that I couldn't possibly cover everything. You know, not too shabby for a scrappy ragtag group working on a B-tier project. Now, I use the term B-tier project because that's how Tim describes it, because that's how Interplay treated it. This game was never a high priority for the company. The team was constantly reminded by higher-ups that they couldn't wait for the project to finish so they could put them on what they deemed more worthwhile endeavors. This game was almost canceled multiple times. That's not the kind of thing that happens when a game receives the attention it's supposed to. However, this lack of corporate oversight gave the team the freedom to experiment and follow their creative instincts. That autonomy allowed them to craft something truly extraordinary, something that may not have been possible under more rigid management. And the result? A game that has stood the test of time and remains a masterpiece in its own right. Now, the majority of the information I got for this video was from the man himself. Tim Cain has his own YouTube channel where he talks about the development of Fallout, his work in the industry, conversations with former members, all that. Go check his channel out. It's awesome, and so is he. So, Go play the game if you haven't, and have yourself a good time. Go away.